I've shot a lot of interviews over the last 8 years. Some that look great, some not so great. And when I go out to shoot these interviews, it's not some opportunity for me to express my ultimate artistic vision. It's more so just a responsibility to honor the message of the person being interviewed. It's usually a person representing a business or a charitable organization, and the videos kind of require a high-key look, something bright and cheery. We're not making The Godfather here. However, I do push myself to create an image with some shape, some depth, some light and shadow. Now, we've all seen those corporate interviews where the lighting is completely flattened off, there's no ratio across the face, no semblance of a key side or fill side, and really no thought given to whether or not the lighting scheme makes sense in the environment they're in. They just light it up bright and pretty, and that's what they go with. This is where the opportunity is for people like us, the people doing this work, is to stand out. Especially in a world where somebody can take an image of themselves or record a video, pump it into an AI that spits out a perfect corporate looking, flat, lifeless headshot anytime they want. It's more important now than ever that we're able to show up and capture the living, breathing person in a way that feels natural, that feels real, and connects with people. If we can't do that, we're bound to be replaced. So with that thought in mind, I'm just going to let you in on a little bit of my recipe for gathering clean, professional, polished looking interviews. Step 1. Separation. Working smaller jobs means that location scouting is rarely ever considered. So when I walk into these spaces, I'm seeing them for the first time, and the first thing I do is have a discussion about how we're going to utilize the space. It's traditionally accepted by cinematographers that choosing the longest axis of a room to shoot along will provide you the greatest amount of depth in your shot. In most cases, you can maximize your shooting space by shooting into corners rather than directly into walls. This is because the measurement from corner to corner is always greater than the measurement between two walls. Applying this principle allows our subject to appear prominent in the foreground while our background elements fall into soft focus. Also notice how not shooting directly at a wall provides greater depth. Step 2. Ratio. Simply put, the term ratio simply refers to the light levels as they differentiate from one side of the face to the other. Notice how one side of the face is lit up brighter than the other? Well, that is our contrast ratio. Getting this right can take a lot of practice, but when you do, it'll bring out the natural beauty of a face. However, if you do it wrong, it will literally do the exact opposite. The topic of lighting ratios can get very technical very fast, and I'd be happy to make a video solely dedicated to the topic of lighting ratios in the near future. But for today, we're going to skip the light meter, we're not going to discuss stops, and we're not even going to switch over to false color. I'm simply going to state that I lit one side of the face slightly brighter than the other. Not too much. We're not creating some ultra dramatic scene here. Just a little bit of ratio to add some shape and contrast to the face, bring out the cheekbones a little bit, which leads us directly into our next topic of discussion: lighting direction. Now, we've discussed using the long axis of a room by shooting diagonally into corners. We've talked about getting our subject away from any flat walls, and we've even talked about lighting ratios on the face. But how do we put it all together? Where do we put the lights? Well, if you take a close look at the background of this image, you'll notice that it's giving us all the clues that we need in order to make some of those decisions. And no, I'm not talking about the phone charger sitting on the chair in the background. I honestly didn't even notice that was there until today. Well, the thing I'm actually talking about is the window over to the right side of the frame. That's actually giving us all the information and all the lighting direction we need to finish this out. It basically takes all the guesswork out of knowing that we've got to put our light right here. It just wouldn't make any sense to have the light coming in from the other direction when it's so obvious there's a bright window right there in the frame. We've now successfully set up and motivated our key light. Another key aspect of this setup has been a hallmark of cinematic images for years, and that is the far side key, or upstage lighting, or also known as short light. Or more simply put, we're simply lighting the side of the face that's away from us. We're going to call that side the key side, and the close side we're going to call the fill side. At first glance, it may appear that we haven't placed the light on the fill side, but actually we have. If you think back to our discussion on lighting ratios, you'll remember that we do want a darker side of the face, but we don't want it too dark. So we did put a light over here, but we put it at a much lower intensity just to keep those ratios in check. Aside from windows, practical lights, or simply lights that appear in the frame, can also influence our lighting. In this example, we have some kitchen lighting that exists in the upper left-hand portion of the frame. However, these lights are not bright enough and they're too far away to do anything to our subject. So we brought in a small spotlight and we dialed it in to the correct color temperature to match those warm lights that are in the background. And that's what's creating this nice little kick from back there. It not only adds contrast to the scene, it separates her from the background, but at the same time ties her to the environment. It finishes everything off pretty nicely. So hopefully you found some of this information useful, and if you've got anything to add, please put it below, because this is not a video made from the top of the mountain. If anything, this is friendly conversation from a fellow climber. If we stick together and we work hard, maybe we'll see each other at the top.